Hello everyone, my name's Kim. I'm a quad amputee. I lost my hands and my legs above the knee. I'm often asked, what caused you to lose your limbs? The simple thing is a UTI, urinary tract infection. I was on holiday in Spain and became very unwell. I'd got really breathless and put that down to change of climate, thought it was my asthma. Like we do, we put these symptoms down to something else. I was really cold. I'd got jumpers on, I'd got blankets round me, I was shivering. Yet the central heating was on and the log burner were on. My husband kept saying that the house was like a greenhouse, and yet I was cold. I had breathlessness, like I've said. I was cold and shivering, like I've said. I also had slurred speech, but I put that down to my medication that I used to take. That used to cause me some slurred speech, but I should have known that in the morning or even afternoon when I had this slurred speech, that wasn't normal. It would only be for the little while after I'd taken it, and I used to take it just before I went to bed, so I wouldn't have been like that in the day. I hadn't passed much urine, but I hadn't really noticed. I did feel like I was going to die. All of these are symptoms of sepsis, but I didn't know. I'd never heard of sepsis, and I didn't know that anyone can get sepsis from any infection. So I want to warn you to help save your life. I was in a coma for 9 weeks. 6 weeks in Spain until my travel insurance finally flew me home. 3 weeks back in the UK in my local hospital in Milton Keynes. I was woken from a coma. My girls were standing at the end of my bed one day and they said, "Mum, the doctor's coming in a minute. We want to warn you because he's going to be telling you that you've got to have your hands and legs amputated because they've died. They're black and they need to remove them to save your life." I must have processed it quite quickly, because all of a sudden I just went, yeah, that's fine. And the doctor came in and he said, "I'm really sorry, Kim, but we need to amputate all your limbs." And I went, yeah, that's fine. How soon can you do it? There was no point in worrying about it. They had to come off. I needed to live for my family. You know, they'd been crying over me for 9 weeks while I quite happily slept and knew nothing about it. I want you to know that it could be you, because anyone, even if you're fit and well, that gets an infection can develop sepsis. It's your immune system going into overdrive, goes a little bit crazy, and it fights it too much. It fights the infection a little bit too much, and it causes it to start fighting your own organs. So your vital organs, once you get into septic shock, start shutting down. My kidneys failed. I was on dialysis. Once I was brought round from Milton Keynes Hospital and told that I needed the amputations, they got me into Ward 2. And from there, they were still checking me. They still said I was very seriously ill. I was under the rapid response team. And they were trying to make sure that I was fit and well enough to be transferred to Bedford Hospital for my amputations. After almost a week, they came and they said, "Oh, we're moving you tomorrow. You're going to Bedford for your amputations." Oh, brilliant. So on the 9th of February 2018, I had all 4 limbs amputated in one go. They'd taken me to theatre to just remove one leg, but they decided that there was minimal blood flow. They phoned my daughter, who was with me, and said, "Can we have consent to take the other leg? Everything's going really well." She said, "Yeah, take whatever, you know, if you can do it, do it." And when I came back, she was waiting, and the doctor came out to her and he said, "We've managed to take all 4 in one go." So when they told me, I was really happy. But the first thing I did was look down at this arm, because they'd been talking about amputating this arm right up here. And I was worried that it'd be really short. It would be harder for me to reach my arm up to blow dry my hair or do anything with a much shorter arm. It does make it harder. So I look down and I see that I'd got pretty much full length. If I put them together, You can see it's just kind of about an inch or so shorter than the other arm, the left arm. And that knobbly bit on the end there, that's my wrist. I've still got the wrist in this one, so it's obviously gone in the right. So I was recovering really, really well. Everything was going really, really well. And they said that they were going to try and move me to a rehab. So they looked into a few and they decided that they were going to try and get me into Roehampton in London at the Queen Mary's Hospital. So I had to go there for an assessment. They took me for an assessment in an ambulance and then brought me back again. And I was accepted, but I then had to wait for a bed at the rehab. That took 3 months. So I was literally laid in bed for 3 months doing nothing, even though I'd had already 9 months in a coma. 9 weeks in a coma. I went to Roehampton and absolutely smashed it in no time at all. I learned how to sit up again. I know that sounds crazy, but I didn't know how to sit up. My body didn't remember, and I just would flop back. And then I had to learn how to kind of walk on my bottom, if you like, and I had to kind of shuffle along the plinth that they call it, the big plastic type bed thing. You probably know what it is. And then once I was able to do that, but it was quite funny because one day it was like the brain engaged with the hip. Oh, you need to lift that. So then I'm off like a shot up the plinth, back again, and I was off like a rocket. It was absolutely incredible. And then they said, right, okay, now you're doing that, we want you to use a sliding board. Sometimes it's called a banana board, and it's kind of shaped a little bit like a boomerang. It's got like an arch bit in it, and I had to go from the plinth across to the wheelchair, and I was absolutely petrified, and I was like, oh my god, but I did it. And then once you've done it a couple of times, it's no problem at all. It doesn't bother me at all now. I go in higher cars, lower cars, whatever. I can get in and out, no problem. It's a bit slippery at times, but I can do it. It's not a problem. So then after I'd done that, they said, oh, you can go home for the weekend. You can have a weekend at home. Would you like that? And I went, oh, yes, please. So they arranged for a bed to go home for me and equipment that I needed, and I went home for the weekend. I came back on the Monday. Was it the Monday? Maybe it was the Sunday evening. I can't remember. But the nurse on duty overnight, I'd called her because I needed a wee. Now, they'd taken my catheter out, and I'd had that catheter for nearly 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. I'd had that catheter. And they'd taken it out ready for going home. So I then had to use this female urinal. I couldn't get up off the bed just to go to the toilet. So they put the female urinal under me. I called the nurse in and she left the curtain open, and I said to her, can you shut the curtain, please? It was only a ward with 4 of us in it, a bay rather, with 4 of us in it. But I knew that one of the girls she'd had a stroke, but she had a mental capacity, more of a child. She was sweet, but I didn't want her seeing me having a wee. You don't go to a public toilet, do you, and leave your public door open for everybody to see you having a wee? No, so I didn't want the curtain left open. But this nurse, in her wisdom, thought it's okay to leave the door open or the curtain rather, because no one's going to see. No, everyone's in bed, it's fine, you can do it. So she did it. Next thing, Kelly come walking in. Hello, Kim, are you awake? Yes, Kelly, I'm just having a wee. See you in a minute. And that was it. I was down. I was so depressed. I was crying all day. I wouldn't let them pull the curtains back. I just bawled my eyes out. The hospital was so worried that the head nurse came to see me, and she went, Kim, look, we've decided that because of how you are and how you've reacted to this, it might be better if you go home. How do you feel about that? And I went, yeah, I want to go home. I want to go home. If you think I've done everything I need to do here, which they'd said I have, I want to go home. Got home. And then that was hard too, because all of a sudden you'd had all this nursing care looking after you, and now it was dependent on your family. And social workers had sorted out carers to come in. So I'd got two, and they was one at the head end, one at the bottom end, and they're both trying to work on me at the same time. It's all rush, 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 rush. I couldn't handle that either. I was like, oh my God, no, stop, stop, stop. Freaked out. They would wash my hair, because I had this bed bath kind of for washing my hair thing. I'd lay back and they could wash my hair on the bed, and they would towel dry my hair and then not brush it. They wouldn't brush it. So then when they got me dressed and everything and went to brush it, it's dry and knotty and horrendous, and I would be screaming. So my daughter would then, leave it, I'll do it. So bless her, she took over. In the end, I got social services to give me what's classed as direct payments, so I can employ my own staff. And I've got an amazing team. I'm so lucky. They're incredible. But anyway, never mind that. Watch out for sepsis. Watch out with any infection at all. Even if you are a fit and well person, if you start feeling incredibly unwell, think, could it be sepsis? I felt like I was going to die before I went to the hospital. And by then, that septic shock, your organs are shutting down and you are in high risk of dying very, very fast. That's why it's called the silent killer. So watch out for slurred speech and confusion, extreme shivering and muscle pain, passing little or no urine in a day, severe breathlessness, it feels like you're going to die, skin mottled or discoloured, cold limbs. I had really cold hands and feet. If you can, check your blood pressure and your temperature. If they are higher or lower than normal with any of those symptoms as well, you need to get to hospital fast. And I can't stress that enough. Please, please warn your friends, warn your family. Don't die from sepsis, because it's so easily treated at hospital with IV antibiotics straight into your veins and IV fluids. Keep safe, and thank you for listening.